Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're watching Sunday edition here on KTN News. Exactly 92 days to this year's general election, barely 3 months. And we are taking a look at the big political stories in the newspapers this morning. And my guests are already here with me in studio. I have with me Hesbon Owila, political analyst. I have the ODM nominee for Teso North constituency, that is Lawi Mamai. First time on the show. Karibu sana. Thank you for joining us, Hesbon. We also have Abraham Kilo, another political aspirant, not new on the program. Thank you, Abraham, for joining us this morning. And of course, this was Mokua, political analysts. They're just here to help me analyze some of the issues we want to take a look at this morning, starting with what's happening in the newspaper dailies, starting with the Sunday Standard. And of course, the big story is the endorsement of Uhuru Kenyatta for another 5-year term by a total of 5 political parties. That's one of the main topics we're discussing. But Hesbon, what did you take home from those endorsements yesterday?
I think it's a big thing for President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto. Getting 5 endorsements from 5 big political parties, it's a statement of intent that President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy are making, that they are serious about another 5-year term in government. And to look at it broadly, I think there are a number of statements that were made, especially by the deputy president, that NASA is about power sharing. And from what I see, this is also power sharing. And it's clear that in as much as NASA talks about 5 principles, we are seeing a situation where silently we have 6 principles, actually 7 principles now in the Jubilee table, for the simple reason that for all these parties that are supporting Uhuru's re-election, they're all looking for power, and the party leaders and the parties have a stake in the next government that will be formed. So I think the most important thing is now, how do they then explain that? The fact that they've been countering NASA's power sharing deal, and then they have equally the same thing.
Interesting. Mr. Mamai, you're an ODM aspirant. Your party is ODM. Your NDC was held on Friday. Yes. What can you say about the 2 NDCs, especially Uhuru Kenyatta's endorsement by those 5 parties?
Yeah, thank you, Ben. I think probably what we can pick from this endorsement is that already NASA seems to be ahead in terms of course, the element of what my friend is saying in terms of power sharing. Now, what you can see from the endorsements that we witnessed yesterday is that even the Jubilee and the Uhuru, of course, and his brigade are also looking at ways to share this power. And this power basically, as it's being shared, the way you heard, for example, the KANU NDC in Kasarani saying, tuko ndani kabisa. What these guys were basically saying here is that they would want to be ndani of this power sharing thing. So they cannot wake up and say that probably NASA is only looking at sharing power among 5 people. It's the same thing that is happening even in Jubilee. Right. So what we are seeing is the Jubilee coalition and their partners actually following what NASA is doing. So essentially it means that we are actually leading ahead in the path.
Interesting perspectives. We'll get into more details of that. But Abraham, the Deputy President William Ruto saying that NASA has spent the last 3 years looking for a candidate, rubbishing their efforts. Do you agree with what the 2 gentlemen are saying?
Yesterday was a great day for us, Jubilee, especially I was present at Bomet. And to experience that and to see what the president said, and also to get these 5 parties endorsing Jubilee, the reality of what the president said, or the deputy president said, 70+1 is almost becoming a reality. I believe it's almost becoming, and it will be a reality if we continue like this. I think Jubilee has prepared itself, has put a system in place, and then in a few weeks you'll start seeing a strategy that we do have in place. I am officially joining the presidential team to campaign for Jubilee officially. And I want to tell you, 70+1 is going to be a reality.
We shall be having an insider here on the show. What about what they are saying, that even Jubilee are looking for power sharing? Those 5 parties are also stakeholders in that government.
See, Jubilee is an inclusive party. They want to bring everybody to be part of this government. And I believe that going forward, the president will sit down with some of these parties, and you want them to be part of the government as we continue. So I believe that you will see a different strategy as we move forward, but we'll be sharing a little bit as we continue the show.
Dismas, what's your verdict?
Ben, politics is about power. So anybody going to the political space claiming he's not interested in power is lying to Kenyans. My college mate here, Lai Mamai, is going to office because he wants power, and he'll use the power to transform the socio-economic lifestyle of his voters. And we hope that when he gets to the National Assembly, he will not be poisoned by the thinking of the National Assembly, and then we start seeing him going to Integrity House. But when you look at the statements made yesterday by all the so-called affiliate parties, everybody is interested in power. And you saw Nick Salat saying he doesn't want to be the political cold, he wants to get into power. The same message came from Martha Karua, the same message came from Alfred Mutua. So anybody claiming that they're not interested in power, they are lying to Kenyans. But I think the most important statement which came out of those endorsements, and which for a naked eye was very interesting, is that the deputy president was not around in all those meetings. He did not follow the president. And for the first time, you saw President Kenyatta actually working for a full day. And I think it's commendable. There are people who've said that the president doesn't spend a lot of time working, but yesterday we saw him at work the entire day, but his deputy president was missing in action. And for me, what I took home, two important things that NASA has been raising for the longest time.
Right.
Number one is the cost of living. President Kenyatta said he's going to summon the National Assembly, and I suspect Muturi is doing a gazette notice for them to go back to the National Assembly and address the cost of living, especially unga. In effect, the president is admitting very late in the day that he has just discovered that Kenyans cannot be able to afford 3 square meals in a day. And of course, the deputy president rubbished the NASA arrangement, referring to Governor Isaac Ruto as somebody who is probably not worth of NASA. And it's very interesting that he paraded some people who have defected, including Salim Muvuria, Mungaro, Joyce Lay, a number of people, claiming that they have more value than maybe Governor Isaac Ruto. And when you balance, say you take Governor Muvuria and you take Governor Isaac Ruto, who actually among the two has got political capital. And then, of course, they also rubbished the fact that Koigwa Amwere and Kirugi Mtomkindia have joined NASA. And, even them now they are parading. I come from Kisii. They paraded some folks from Kisii who do not have any political capital. So you begin to wonder whether or not our politicians, both in NASA and Jubilee, whether they're actually honest to the nation Kenya. But at the end of the day, yesterday, you could see that they've probably retained the services of a new communication strategist because there was a very good messaging and there was very good propaganda coming from the president, his deputy, and Duale. For the first time, I saw Duale speaking from a script, and it will be interesting to find out what NASA says in response. Right. Like, for instance, when the deputy president says, this gentleman have spent the last 3 years trying to create jobs for 3 people. And Kenya, we have so much unemployment. How long would it take them to create maybe 10 million jobs for the Kenyans who are not employed? That was a very interesting propaganda. Of course, you also recall that he threw some jabs at Honorable Wetangula, speaking about the issues of Tokyo. And my interpretation was he was referring to the Tokyo scandal, whereby there were allegations, and I understand Wetangula was taken to court and he was cleared. He was not found guilty. Yeah. But in the same room, there are a number of Jubilee candidates who are accused of having participated in a number of scandals. I suspect the deputy president probably didn't see them. Right. And we've got a number of candidates who've won on Jubilee tickets who are very intimately associated to the NY scandal with the Eurobond. But it's very strange that the deputy president did not see that, and instead he saw, the other people on the other side of the fence.
All right. We'll get into all those intrigues very shortly, and all those which of the two political sides of the political divide maybe came out on top in the NDCs. Let's take a look at page 4 and 5 of the Sunday Standard. And this is about the issue of independent candidates. We have seen, after a very grueling campaign for the nominations, a lot of independent candidates, both for across all elective positions, apart from the presidential one, of course. And some of them here, this story by Alphonse Shiundu. Of course, we have Paulo Toma from Mamai's county of Busia, which was very dramatic. Muguna here in Nairobi, and there's David Musila, the Kitui senator, who is running for the gubernatorial race, a seat in Kitui as an independent candidate. There's Bundotich Zedeka Kiprop Buzeki in Uasin Gishu, Ochilo Ayako in Migori, as well as Nicholas Gumbo in Siaya County. In terms of the parliamentary seats, a lot of them. John Serut in Montelgon, this is Andrew Toboso, I believe, Bureti constituency, and this is Kaduri Murungi, Mentisa, just to mention a few of them. And this story is about the risk that these members, if they are elected into office, whether members of the National Assembly, that they will be begging the big parties to be put into, different departmental committees. If it's in terms of the governors, they will be at the mercy of their members of the county assembly. Do you agree with that, Hesbon?
Yeah, I think
a hard task ahead if they are elected.
If they're elected, I think it's relatively easy for them, because getting a party to take you on board is no-brainer, because most political parties would still want numbers, after the election, it will be fairly straightforward to decide which party you're going to, and they'll accept you. But then I think the crux of the matter is in the election, for the simple reason that as an independent candidate, you're going to be fighting two wars. One, you're going to try and mitigate the impact of political parties which will be campaigning for their candidates. And then you're also going to try as much as possible to, endear yourself to the voters as an independent candidate who does not have the backing of the political parties, which is probably not a very easy task. But let me say this, that I think independent candidates are going to bring some sense into political parties, because I know a number of them, because of the sham primaries that we had, have a basis for going independent. They have the numbers, the sham that they witnessed in the primaries have given them the impetus that they have a chance of winning, given that IBC will have a very efficient, election, and the sham that we saw in the political parties probably won't be seen on August 8th. And because of that, I think they'll have, a few of them will have something to take home. But most importantly, I think the two presidential candidates, because it's a two-horse race anyway, have a stake in this. They will, as much as possible, want to support the independent candidates, for the simple reason that the independent candidates have a following. And because the presidential candidates want votes, they would encourage these independent candidates to vie, so that the few people will be coming to cast their votes for the independent candidates cast along the way up to the presidential level. And therefore, if you are a presidential candidate probably, and you have dissenting voices in a county like Migori, you'd want all the independent candidates to contest, for the simple reason that there are a number of them who probably reside in Nairobi and urban centers, right, and have a population that is not in the local areas where they are vying, who, if they withdraw from the race completely, their people won't have an incentive to go back down and vie. So there is that incentive from the presidential candidates that they will encourage all independent candidates to consider themselves as important.
All right.
Yeah.
Abraham, you have been on the campaign trail. Do you think these independents have any chance of winning in August?
Talking from experience, Ben, being an independent candidate, it's easy to say than really getting down to campaigning. After the nomination, several people came to me and told me, why don't you run independent? Why don't you independent? We sat down with my team and advisors. And after talking to electorate, really, it's easy to get in, but it's not easy to campaign on your own against a party like Jubilee, especially in the North Drift, where the wave of Jubilee is there, it's huge. For example, Buseki, who was vying for the governor of Uasin Gishu, he lost and he said he's going independent. A lot of Uasin Gishu voters really resonate much with Jubilee party. And so it will cost them quite a bit, but at the end of the day, the Jubilee will carry the day. You'll have used a lot of your resources, a lot of your funds, and people will tell you, you will win, you will win. There are some areas where a candidate who is independent will really win. But knowing some predominant areas like Central, like Rift Valley, it will be hard for independent candidates to come through. I spent 6 months of campaigning, and I was very sure I was going to win. But you see, the electorate has changed, Ben, as a lot of young people are voting now. They're voting in a lot of young people. And knowing what I know now, based on the experience, going independent, you have to think twice. The reason why I chose to join the presidential campaign team and work with Jubilee is to build a party and to strengthen the party, because I know, truly, knowing what I know, Jubilee is going to carry the day. 70+1 is going to be a reality as we move forward, and independent candidate is going to have a very rough time as we move forward.
At 70+1, Dismas likes to call it very good propaganda, yes, by Jubilee. Mm-hmm. Why do we have so many independents this time round, and what are their chances?
You know, but when you look at the history of independent candidates, is when you run away from a political party because of ideological or philosophical issues. Maybe using America as an example, you would have Ross Perot or Michael Bloomberg, that they are not Democrats nor Republicans because of philosophies or ideologies. They don't agree with their founding political parties. But in Kenya, you've got a number of very few independent candidates, like Dr. Patrick Musimba from Kibwezi. Right from the time he joined politics, he knew he didn't want to be aligned to any political party. So he spent all his time building his brand and creating a grassroots network to deliver a victory. But the ones we have today are people who participated in party primaries, and for some reason they've been kicked out. And anybody who has run in a political party primary who is very strong and he's been kicked out because the political party leadership does not want him, he stands a very high chance of winning that particular position. Let's use an example, say Jamle Kamau. If for some reason there is somebody within the party, you know, the rank, who doesn't want him to be governor for Murang'a, but the people in Murang'a have got a different view. If he decides to run as an independent candidate, then obviously he's going to win, given that he's said to be a man of resources and he's got a good brand and he's recognized. But if you participate in a party primary and you lose, and then a few of your sycophants still tell you that you are a strong man, well, in fact, they're interested in your bank balance, you proceed and run, then you're going to be beaten badly. For instance, Musila has indicated that he's going to run as an independent. He ran against Dr. Malombe and he was beaten while he was the chairman of the political party, while he had tactic support from the party leader. Still, Dr. Malombe gave him a beating. If he now decides to run as an independent, probably nothing much has changed. But again, that one may be a bit different because it's going to be Charity Ngilu. But most of the time, if you lose in a party primary which is free and fair, and you want to go and run as an independent, probability of winning is 0. But again, you notice that the two presidential candidates, that's President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, in 2 separate meetings have said they don't have problems with independent candidates, that you can knock yourself dead, provided you do not campaign against them. So, and if you come, say, from central Kenya, and you get elected you get elected as an independent, the probability of you joining Jubilee when you go to the National Assembly is almost 1.
Okay.
Because you did not move from Jubilee because of ideology. You moved because you were kicked out.
What about the governors in terms of, we have seen this in the past 4 years or so, a lot of governors having a torrid time from the members of their county assemblies. There have been claims of extortion or blackmail from the MCAs. So if you win as an independent and you become the governor, what does that become for you? Of course, we know the governor for Vihiga,
Governor
Karanga, has been. I think he has only one MCA from his party, and he has done it very well. But what are their chances going to be?
Well, it will depend on how you, for lack of a better word, how you manipulate the MCAs. Because we know the MCAs, as soon as they get elected, they want somebody to line their pockets. I mean, it's a best practice now that you give them contracts, you organize for them benchmarking trips, and you just look at their financial interest, and you'll be okay. Actually, the only governor who has had issues with MCAs is the governor who has tried to be very straight and not play to their hands, like Professor Kivuda Kibwana. But a governor like Gachagua, he decided to be very firm. And even if you try to impeach him or go all the way to the Senate, there's a very high chance that the Senate will kick out that. So it really depends on how you manage them. And managing them, it's about their bank balances. Make them to be your principal suppliers to the county government, as the case is, and you'll have a very comfortable 5 years.
Mr. Momai, what do you think about these independent candidates?
Well, I think probably one thing that needs to come out clearly is that during our campaigns, in the primaries, all parties, whether in the NASA coalition or the Jubilee coalition, are actually saying that let's campaign together. And if the process is seen to be free and fair, then it is actually probable.
Let me cut you short there. We seem to be having a problem with your microphone. We will be sorting it out very soon. As we do that, we'll do that very soon. Let's move on to page 21. Still on page, let's move on to page 21 of the Sunday Standard. And this is about a very interesting battle between mother and son. That is in Bomet East, between the widow of the late Koness and the son. That is, of course, Beatrice Koness, former Affairs Assistant Minister, and the son, I think, is Kiprotich Koness, who is vying for the Bomet East party seat on a CCM ticket. Beatrice Koness is vying on a Jubilee ticket. I know this is South Rift. your stronghold is the North Rift. But what do you think about this? Beatrice Kones saying that Ruto is sponsoring her son to finish her politically.
This is a family affair, and it's becoming a national. It's being played on national table. Ms. Kones, Beatrice Kones, won on a Jubilee ticket, and we are pretty sure that she is going to have easy sail through. But now, Chama cha Mashinani, sponsored by Ruto, was just led by Ruto, is sponsoring this young man, which is the son of Beatrice, actually. And so the battle is within the family and now within the whole community now, who is going to go with who. The mom says my son has been sponsored, which is, it could be true, it could not be true, but I have to believe that Chama cha Mashinani Ruto is behind this, and it's going to divide the family, of course, but at the end of the day, electorate is going to be very smart. Chama cha Mashinani is very strong in South Rift. It's building up. But we are going in. We are going in very soon, and we are going to educate the electorate. As I told you, I've joined the presidential campaign team, and we will. We are going in to educate the electorate really why Beatrice Kones should be the right candidate, and I believe she will. And even splitting the family like this would not be the right thing to do. And even Isaac himself should have known.
It is democracy.
It is democracy, but Isaac should know. You can't separate a mother, from, this is the firstborn son of Beatrice. And this, he was not in the race from the beginning. It's only now when she was declared the candidate, this guy appeared and he said, now I am the preferred candidate for CCM. Now, it's going to be very interesting, of course, the funding and the frustration as a family. But at the end of the day, of course, democracy will be exercised. We believe that Beatrice will win, that will carry the day. And people will see the light, and they will know that going in to split a family like this will not be fair.
This was mother and son. I'm told some of the strategy meetings are usually held in the same compound sometimes. How do you see this playing out?
They must be having a very big compound if you can have those two strategy meetings in the same place, same time. But when you look at Governor Isaac Ruto, and that's why I fail to understand why Kiru and company underrate Governor Isaac Ruto. They look at him as a lightweight, because he seems to have a very good command of the Kipsigis sub-clan, or rather community in Rift Valley. I saw the meeting he had yesterday, and it was packed to capacity. Obviously, a number of the people who attended were given a sitting allowance or a standing allowance, but still he was able to attract a huge crowd. So it would be very naive for anybody to imagine that Governor Isaac Ruto does not want to influence the outcome of Narok, for Nakuru, for Bomet, and for Kericho. I understand that when Joyce Laboso won as the nominee for Jubilee, she was in cloud 9. Little did she know that the people who actually voted for her are CCM supporters. And you cannot just say that Governor Ruto is going to sit pretty, assuming that this election is they're having an election voting for the Pope in Vatican, and just watch things happen. And nobody should claim that Governor Isaac Ruto is causing a family split. Because for Governor Ruto, he's looking for candidates, strong candidates that he can sponsor. Of course, I'm sure he's going to give them some little money, whose sources probably we do not know. But it would be very naive for anybody to imagine that Governor Ruto would just be seated without looking for candidates. So if one candidate happens to come from the same family with Beatrice Kones, if it happens to be the son, then if Beatrice actually is very worried that politics is going to split the family, being the mother, then she probably needs to step aside and say, let my son go ahead with the ball.
The son should listen to the mother. That's the other way around.
But Jubilee is saying that it's a political party for youngsters. I've seen the candidates for Nairobi, John Kiare, saying that there's a revolution happening in Jubilee. We are encouraging young people to come on board.
We'll talk about that also in detail. My own in this, and the allegation that I'm being pushed is not true. That is Kipngetich Kones, the son, and Ruto has said that he has no issue with Mrs. Kones at all. Says politics is about policies and numbers, and CCM does not engage in name calling. What do you think about this, Mark?
Yeah, that is true, and thank you for sorting my microphone. I think it is actually a democratic right for each and everyone to be able to participate in any elective process. And it's not wrong for the son to be able to say, the one stake, to be able to come and to change the affairs of that particular constituency. And to me, whether this young guy is in CCM and the mother is in Jubilee, I think it's important that they're both given an opportunity to come up with their agenda, to come up with their manifesto, that then eventually will be determined by the people of that particular constituency. And also, of course, it is something that every other political party would want to see. Would want to see our young men and women getting out, and would want them to be able to participate in the electoral process of this country. Because leadership, again, is something that you go out and actually take it. You will not sit and wait for your mother or your father to hand leadership to you. You have to get out as a young person, go outside there so that you can be able to be seen to be encouraging other young people. And if Jubilee really believes that this is a time for the young people to come out, I would want to point out to them that you are going to see so many young people coming out from the NASA side. The only thing probably is that the people probably from the NASA side haven't found that opportunity to parade, the aspirants that have won. But where I'm sitting, I can tell you for free, Ben, that there are so many young aspirants that have come from the NASA coalition, whether from ODM, where I myself represent. There are quite a number of young people, both gender, and you're going to see this. So that whatever you're going to see replicate itself into August House come August is actually, quite a number of young people who this time around are saying that it is time for us really to come out and engage, not only because of party issues, but engage because of national issues which are actually affecting this country. And to take you back, Ben, you'll agree with me that about 70% of the Kenyan population is the youth, is actually the young people. So those are things that probably now are encouraging the experts to come out, are encouraging the professionals to come out and participate in the building of the nation.
Final thoughts on this?
I think the biggest thing is not the fact that Isaac Ruto is sponsoring the late Kipkalia Konese's son. The issue is, how can you convince somebody's son to run against the mother? You must have some clout, some political capital for that to happen. And I think that is what Jubilee should be scared about, that to what extent does it now come to a situation where CCM is even influencing a family to have a son run against one of the key political leaders that they think would help them mitigate the impact of Isaac Ruto. And to me, I think to underestimate the clout of Governor Isaac Ruto is probably to shoot yourself in the foot. And this is a clear illustration that if he could get out of his way and convince Beatrice Konese's son to vie, and the son actually agreed to vie on a CCM ticket, is a big score for CCM and by extension for NASA.
All right. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we shall talk about something that Mamai here has talked about. This is a new crop of leaders. There's a story on page 22 of the Sunday Standard by Professor Levi Obonyo, my former lecturer in campus, saying true handover of political power will happen after 2022 elections, talking about several successions, starting with 1978, and the founding father, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, passing the power to Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, and then 2002, the handover of power from the KANU regime to Mwai Kibaki, and 2013 from Mwai Kibaki to President Uhuru Kenyatta. But Professor Obonyo saying that in 2022, going by the just concluded nominations, a crop of new leaders is emerging, and that is when true handover of political power in this country will happen. We'll take a look at that next. Don't